Hey, Ytsen. How are you?
Oh, good man. How are you?
I'm good as well. Amazing day. I have here you together with me doing this podcast, so it couldn't get better.
Absolutely right. Thanks so much for the invite.
How have you been since you transitioned to Golden Egg Check?
I'm having a lot of fun, man. It's been a great transition. It doesn't really even feel like a
Yeah.
transition. Obviously, the platform has been mine since we started it in 2023. But having like the full speed and focus to put my full attention to it is fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally understandable. All right, then let's get started with the questions without losing too much time.
Sure.
So the first question is to kind of define what we're gonna talk about today. Of course, it's about success and how the mechanics of success works. But so, as Yitsen, as an investor, how do you define success?
Yeah. So the way I thought about it was success to me is more of a byproduct than an end goal.
Yeah,
So I think um, when you build a system or a process and you keep your head down and keep working at it while you're doing the work, then at some point I think you will you will achieve success. So I fully trust the system or the process behind it, and at some point that will lead to success. And so yeah, that's maybe not a definition, but
yeah,
that is the way I look at it.
yeah. That's the way to achieve it, of course. But so yeah, for some people, the success is like just leaving something behind once they're done with it, or um, I don't know, just contributing to the lives of people, creating impact, and those kind of things. And what would it be for you? So how would you define success? It doesn't have to be financial. It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
And so with our fund, mm, we want to be successful by creating major startup successes or being
Mhm.
part of major startup successes. And I think the way we do it is by leveraging the networks that we've built
Yeah.
up over a long period in time. And those networks uh, then should provide leverage to the founders who are the ultimate heroes in our story to achieve their goals faster.
Yeah.
So if at the end of a fund, we have multiple portfolio companies in the fund that have been wildly successful,
Yeah.
then I would define us as successful
Yeah.
too.
And I would like you to explain wildly successful, because that is like for everyone,
Yeah,
yeah, wildly successful can differ in terms of definition. And
of
for
course. Yeah.
you, if you were to quantify it, what would it be?
I mean, what we promise to the investors in our fund is that we will generate, between 3 and 5x or something on a 10-year period. And so we need a few outliers in the full portfolio to get there because this is early stage venture, and you can imagine that, a significant part of the portfolio ultimately will not make it.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, there's a whole calculation to our fund model, how we get
of
to those
course.
specific numbers, but at some point we're going to need exits in the range of hundreds of millions to lower billions in order for us to make a meaningful return on our fund and therefore to our investors, and that will allow us to keep doing this, which is the ultimate goal, right? We
Yeah.
love what we do. We want to keep doing it, and so therefore we need to make a return. And that means making the right investment decisions, making sure that you help the founders to the extent that you can, while they still have to do it, right? And then at some point that should lead to success. And that is sort of the process that we trust.
And given your experience in also Cottonwood and your prior experiences, would you be able to say that you are successful, or are you still getting there?
Yeah, definitely still getting there. Right? I think I'm very driven. I'm probably the most driven person I know. I work long hours. I go to the gym basically every day. I show up to everything I can. I spend a lot of time thinking where this comes from, and I think for me, this started somewhere in middle school, uh, and also my home situation where I grew up alongside a blind brother, where the attention that necessarily had to go to my brother because he was blind didn't always go to me, and that
Yeah.
somehow lit a fire in me, and I've never been able to turn that fire off, like that flame. And so that energy that needs somewhere to go, and I trust that where I'm currently putting my energy will ultimately lead to success. And does that mean I am successful by that definition today? No, but I think the system is starting to work, and I
Yeah.
trust that system.
Okay, okay, cool. So, to achieve the success that you have just defined, exiting lower billions, if a successful business can be built on three key pillars, what would those three key pillars be within your definition?
Yeah, so I thought of it in the sense that how can Golden Egg Check be successful? But I think this would work for other venture firms as well, and potentially even for more regular firms, because I think venture firms are a different breed. But you know what makes uh, what makes me successful, or how I aim to be successful, is I think three things. I make the intro and I don't keep score. So it sounds super simple, but there's very few people who actually do this.
Can you
People,
explain that?
yeah, sure. Yeah. So people in the back of their mind, I think a lot of people do keep score, and they think about what they get before they connect to people. I personally never operated that way. I've been like a natural connector all of my life. I think I have a good friend who's a recruiter, and he connects people too. He makes a killing. I probably should have done the same, and I would be far more financially successful than I am today. But I just feel like if I think that two people should know each other, then I just make the intro. I don't have an agenda. I don't have expectations that this will come back to me. But I understand that at some points the returns to me doing this are enormous, but they're also non-linear.
Yeah,
And because of that non-linearity, you don't know when you will get it back at some point. Um, that is the reason why most people don't do this. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, I think, be super honest about what you don't know. So, and maybe the pillar behind that is always be curious.
yeah,
Because only if you're curious, you figure out what you don't know, right?
exactly.
Only the mind that challenges himself will figure out that, hey, actually, I know something new today that I didn't know yesterday, but now I know that I know less, essentially, because there's so much more to grasp when you start to understand something truly. And so, when you tell someone you don't know, you keep the conversation very clean. And I think there's way too many people who have a lot of difficulty saying I don't know. So that's something that
Yeah,
that is also, I think, a pillar, has been a pillar to my success. I dare to say I don't know. I dare to sort of put myself in the open and ask stupid questions to smart people, and that typically is highly appreciated. And then finally, this is also an open door, but rarely done, especially in sales. Under promise and then over deliver. I think,
yeah,
especially in our industry, we're playing a long-term game, 20 years plus. The people you deal with today, they are going to remember what you said and what you did, especially if you didn't do it. And I think that there's a gap. If there's a gap between what you say you do and what you actually do, then that's the track record, as opposed to the financial track record that you may have or may not have.
Yeah.
The actual track record that people really remember is what did you say and how did you follow up? And so these three pillars, I think, are my core pillars that I also apply to our business.
So three fundamental rules of yourself. Then good.
Yeah, more or less.
And if you were to pick one of them, as I know all of these are interconnected, but if you were to pick one of them, which one would it be?
Yeah, so the most me is really making that intro and not
Yeah.
expecting anything in return. Whenever I meet someone new and they start talking about, what they're doing, how they are, what their challenges currently are, my mind starts racing. I have difficulty sometimes following the conversation because my mind is already racing. How can I try and help this person?
Yeah.
And so I end almost all of my conversations with a very simple question. How can I help? How can I unblock you? Um, and that leads to a lot of follow-up always. I mean, I built an automation with my AI that allows me to keep a track of all the things that I promised to do after a conversation, and it shows up in my CRM system, and I
All
actually
right.
do it. But yeah, the actual work of making that intro, especially after you said you would do it, is super important. And there's, yeah, that
Yeah.
is a major lever.
Otherwise, it's just gonna be empty promise, and that's also gonna hurt your name and reputation as well. That's
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is what's generally wrong with venture, right? People
yeah.
overpromise and then underdeliver, and that's why VCs or investors in general tend to have a really bad name. Um, and I understand, like, if I'm also always disappointed when someone promises to make an introduction to someone that would be very valuable to me, and then they show up or they don't show up and they don't do it. Then I'm disappointed. But
Yeah.
you keep going, you trust the process, and at some point it will happen.
Exactly. Exactly. And when you're applying this rule to your daily life or making an important decision to become successful, do you assess this on specific metrics or indicators?
No, no, not necessarily. I think, as I said, I don't keep score. I keep track, right?
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I do what I say I do. But I'm not expecting anything in return.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But do you then expect, let's say you are making an investment decision, and do you expect the people on the other side of the screen or other side of the table to also follow this thesis on introducing people without any expectations?
No, no, definitely not. I think also for, this is a trait that works very well with being a venture investor because
Yeah,
basically everything you have to add is your network, or at least that has always been the thing that I can add, right? I mean, there's also
yeah,
ex-founders, ex-operators who can be more operationally involved or hands-on. But yeah, with founders, that's not necessarily something I look for. I just look for, passion, grit, endurance, execution capability, these kinds of things.
yeah, 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 yeah. Let's move on to the next question. So, what is one fundamental assumption about how business works? One you believed in or widely accepted as truth that now you consider as a dangerous hallucination?
I found this a difficult question, but one assumption I held, and I watched this play out at the prior fund where I worked, but also in our own portfolio, is that Um, a false assumption is that when you think that some bets or some investments are safer than others, and that you can mix sort of the high conviction investment opportunities with more conservative companies that at least might not go to zero. And it sounds very rational, right? To have a few companies in your portfolio where you at least you know I won't lose any money. I'm sort of hedging my bets.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. I no longer believe in it. I think there's no such thing as a safe bet in venture capital. The
Yeah.
companies that look safe today um, might not be safe whatsoever tomorrow. And okay, also doesn't return the fund, right? And
Yeah.
so if some of
Exactly.
the, let's call them more high conviction bets don't play out, your safe bets are just not going to cut it for you. And so yeah, this was something where I've made a few wrong calls, or we made a few wrong calls, and I think that's really something that now I I completely look different at.
So this means that you had high risk bets and then you wanted to hedge with less risky bets, but then it turned out to be risky as well, or that safe bet turned out to be a bad decision.
It's too early to tell. I mean, that Fund
Okay.
One is 2.5 years old, but I just know that some of the investments that we made because we felt they were safe. We felt that they were good investment decisions that would easily make us money. Maybe not return the fund, but at least do a solid return on investment. And if I now look back at some of those deals, then I'm just not convinced that those were the right investment decisions in the light of us wanting to drive returns by making a few exceptional investments and accepting that the others just didn't work out. And so therefore, there's no real truth yet because
Yeah.
we've only been operating for 10 quarters. But yeah, I just this is definitely something that I learned.
Okay, so to follow up on the previous question, how did you come to the conclusion that making safe bets are not actually the correct way?
Yeah, as I said, I think um, there is just no such thing as a safe bet. Like we had a portfolio company in the first fund. It was doing great. Like we invested, it was doing meaningless revenue, like I don't know, lower thousands. And then all of a sudden, it was a marketplace. It was doing millions in GMV per month. It was scaling fast into tens of millions in GMV per month. And at some point, they asked us to re-up, invest more money. And so we did because we
Yeah.
felt like, okay, this is a great investment decision. We went all the way from zero to tens of millions in GMV. Company was nearing profitability, raising a large round, getting to the point, where we could actually see something happening. And I saw the trajectory at my first employer, the Northern Development Agency, as well, where I sat on the shareholder seat for Katowice for a while, and they had this fantastic GMV marketplace model, and we saw very compelling characteristics that really looked like some of the stuff that Katowice had been going through 8 years prior or something.
Yeah.
So we made the goal, and a couple of months later, growth slowed down and then it stalled. And the company flatlined. And at some point, the company even started to decline in GMV. And then it rapidly started to decline in GMV. And so, what felt like a very, I mean, and this might not be the perfect comparison because this company at the time did definitely have the potential to return the fund. But yeah, the company flatlined. It became more and more crowded in their market. It became harder and harder for us to see
Yeah.
how we might make money on it ultimately. And so, what seems like a good investment decision one day can be a poor investment decision half a year later, simply because the
But that's
market
due
dynamics
to
changed.
fast evolving environment then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like the market dynamics. And I think because of this investment that we did make, and where we ultimately
yeah,
most likely will lose some money, the company is still operating today. Um, we we started to think through, okay, what if we find some other types of businesses which are more stable, which are more cash flow positive, and also invest in a few of those. And I think, and we did do maybe one or two of those, and then at some point realized that this is not going to be the way where we return our fund a few times
yeah,
over. So we really need to be playing the venture game as opposed to the private equity light kind of game that we're also not built for. I'm not valuable to those companies.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, okay. Good, good insights and a good story. Okay, so now let's reflect a bit on the future. How do you see what it will take to be successful? As in, given that everything happening right now with AI, social media, Gen Z entering the workforce, all this political and economic shift, and also the rumors about AI bubble is about to burst, etc. How do you see it going forward?
In terms of being successful, right?
Yes, in terms of what it will
Yeah.
take to be successful.
Yeah. So the key thing I wrote down here was showing up. Like I think that's it. Everything else is noise.
Yeah,
Uh, especially when we talk about these big picture events such as an AI bubble potentially bursting, I think yeah the smart thing to do is take a step back, zoom out, um, and look at the trajectory, and then you will see that markets tend to move in an upward trajectory, and at some point we will also uh, resume on a more standard trajectory. Um, and throughout it all, I think the key thing to do as Gen Z entering the workforce, as young people, is just showing up. Is showing up and telling people, I'm here. I want to be valuable. I'm young. I have little experience, but I want to learn. How can I help?
yeah.
Is genuinely a very good way to start.
Being
Um,
curious, being eager,
yeah,
and just iterating and just failing over and over again
yeah,
until you become successful, right?
yeah, and we've been given the tools by AI
Yeah,
um, to to build. So I'm not a technical guy. I have a business administration background. I have no idea. Until 6 months ago, I didn't know what a command line was. I didn't study computer science, but right now AI is building products for me at a pace that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago or 3 years ago. The barrier between having an idea and actually building something that works is collapsing. Like there
yeah,
there is no longer a barrier. And the only thing that you need to have is like the grit or the tenacity to keep on trying while the AI is saying, "I'm sorry, it's not working right now," because
yeah,
that's currently the only bottleneck that's hindering you from deploying anything useful. I mean, I built this whole executive assistant at Golden Egg Check, and yesterday I shared it with the rest of the team, and I told them, "Hey guys, I finally completed my executive assistant, and I want to share it with you." So I had to go to GitHub and I transfer my repository. And then this morning, when usually I get like a Slack message containing my daily brief and my meeting preparation memos and everything, I didn't get anything. And I was already quite late. And I had a couple of back-to-back calls early morning. So then all of a sudden I had to do the prep work myself, or at least I
yeah,
had to ask my AI to do the prep work for me. And I was like, fuck, what happened? I thought I was being meticulous about it. And it cost me a couple of hours until late in the morning to fix it again. But just being curious to, okay, what happened
yeah,
here? how can my AI fix it for me? What do I need to do? And not being bummed out that it takes 11 tries or 12 tries until it finally is running and back up again. Is simply you have to show up. You just have to be present and try.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I agree because we, as you said, we now have the tools to figure out what's wrong. The only thing that is in between our current position and our successful position is just showing up. If you try hard enough, then you can probably manage what you want to achieve. That's the era we're in. Okay, and maybe for you to ask a question now. If you were able to ask a person that you think is successful, one question to understand how they achieved what they achieved, what would that question be?
I think the question I would ask is what relationship changed it for you? Like what relationship, what person really made a dent in your career? Because I think that throughout people's careers, there's a few people that really, really, really make a dent.
Yeah,
And getting to those persons propels you essentially. So I had mine. Uh, I'm sure I can share it. I've never asked him, but I'm sure he's okay with it. I I asked the financial director of the NOM back in 2019 or maybe early 2020 to connect me to a former colleague of his, and his name was Patrick Polak. He's the founder of Newion, the investment fund,
yeah,
B2B SaaS. Um, and he's been a mentor ever since. He's been an inspiration. I go out for dinner maybe once or twice a year. I see him at the, Venture Capital Association events every now and then. But most importantly, whenever I'm stuck, I give him a call. I
mm,
just call him and I tell him, look, this is what's going on. I have no idea what I should do. I would love your advice. And he always takes the time. He's one of the busiest people I know. He's on the board of a few brilliant companies across the globe. And he just always shows up and he gives his advice. And very often the advice is very simple and it's very everybody could have thought of it, but I didn't at the
yeah,
time. And so that has been super helpful. And so whenever I, uh, yeah, whenever I think of him, and we had chats about this too, that yeah, one relationship or a few relationships throughout your career can really make a dent. And so figuring out who that person was for them, allowing you to figure out if that person could also make a change for you,
yeah.
or find out the characteristics of a person that could do that for you, that is super, super helpful.
Very well. And is there a specific person that you want to ask this question to, or is this generally for the whole audience?
I think it's general for the whole audience. There's not someone that I would ask it to right now. I've uh, I've been lucky to have my fair share of mentors.
Yeah.
There's a person who I have in mind who I will ask the same question in the next couple of months, but I'm not going to share that here.
Okay, you mentioned that you do everything one way without having any expectations back in return. But I want to ask you if the people who will watch this or will see this somewhere can help you with anything.
Look, I'll just say what I always say. I'm always open to connect with people. I'm always happy to take 15 minutes out of my day and have you share your story with me and see if there's any way I can help. And the other way around, I hope you'll do the same, right?
Yeah,
If
of
at
course.
some point then I reach out to you and I ask you for an introduction to any given person that I see you're connected to, or I have a hunch you might be connected to, then I would just love it
Yeah,
to get connected in the same way. Because this is how I feel an ecosystem of trust and an ecosystem
exactly.
of a flywheel is built. This is why I love that flywheel initiative so much, which was done by the by what's his name, Robert van Gaal in Amsterdam, or Robert Gaal. Um, it puts us in a position fairly similar to what is being done in Silicon Valley, which is also just help out people, don't expect
Yeah,
anything in return, and then because everybody is doing it, that creates massive, massive growth.
exactly. Yeah, it's just the basic definition of building a community, right? We are here to help each other out, to grow, to be successful, eventually to make the world a better place, sustainable, safe, ethical, and in terms of anything that you can think about. So once again, thank you for your time, and
Yeah,
I wish you a good day.
absolutely. Same to you. Thanks so much, Jose.
Thank you.